Okay, you gotta give me more if you're gonna say that.
It's about me, um, take, not becoming in Christ who is strong.
Right, right. Okay, so you using the duality of it, that we leave in it, we still see both ourselves and we see God. Really, what it is that human love what it likes. That makes sense? Human love only wants to love what's lovable, what's likable, what's favorable, right? God loves, divine love, loves even when it's not favorable, when it's not likable. That's what separates. Divine love loves the unloving, the unlovable thing. Divine love loves that, right? And so for us becoming disciples, one of the things that he asks us to do is that we have to, in our process in becoming like him, we have to love like him also. Now, the major challenge to our love is, we said, is that F word. Forgiveness. Yeah, I know. You look at me like, what? What are you talking about? Forgiveness. Forgiveness is one of those words that we have a difficult time doing. Right? Forgiveness is getting very difficult for us. So on one hand, we have love, and then how do we show that love? It's not merely just walking around and we're bright and we're happy. Love is tested, right, when we are faced with things that's unlovable. Situations where we're hurt, we've been burned, we've been misused, right? And so in cases like that, love can be difficult. All right? Now, last week we started talking about control and manipulation, and so tonight I wanted to pick up a little bit more on this forgiveness, because I think I wish we did have the board, but it's all right. Because I think I can tie it in with everything we said on Sunday, right? With the way that the service flowed yesterday, Sunday, where there was no preaching, and it came to the point of where we're talking about living, washing your face, changing your clothes, and live. It has everything to do with how we are able to forgive and letting go, right? And for us to understand forgiveness. Are you with me? Amen. All right. So what makes forgiveness? Let's break down forgiveness for just a minute. And okay, perfect. And just get the. Let's break down why is forgiveness so difficult? All right. And we're going to look at what is forgiveness. So it's going to almost feel like class today. Y'all in the mood for class? Amen. Amen? All right. It's almost going to Okay? So forgiveness is looking at the past, right? It is also taking account of the present, but it also is looking forward, right? It's also looking forward. It is also trying to make a almost declarative, almost a stance that, you know what? Tomorrow, I'm going to be better and I'm going to be healed. Well, that's what happens when you decide to forgive. When you decide to forgive, you're saying, I'm letting go of the past hurt, right? I'm going to make this adjustment for right now, and I need it for right now because I know tomorrow it's going to be better. Because without letting go, that's possible. Does that make sense? Yeah. Now, the difficulty is when we're talking about forgiveness is that most of the time, the past, we can't change it. And so the memory of what happened, we want to change it. It has scarred us. It has left us confused, right? So the memory of it. And so what oftentimes when we can't let go of what happens in the past, we will fight our hardest to make sure it doesn't happen again in the future. Which lead us to trying to control everything that happens in the future. Does that make sense? That now, for instance, we've been hurt in the past. So now, in order for me not to go through that again, my future, oh no, I ain't messing with this one, X, Y, Z. And anytime anyone comes near or looking like that in that vicinity, we shut it down. And even sometimes we shut down good friendships, good relationships, because this is still in control. Past hurt. Does that make sense? Wait, okay, it's silent. Amen. Let me know if that makes sense.
Yes.
And you may not be operating out of forgiveness. You're allowing your hurt to determine what your future choice is.
Could it also to be fear?
Okay. Fear because of what? What?
For example, you had an experience in your past,
Uh-huh.
and it was damaging, it was hurtful,
Mm-hmm.
and now you're afraid that it might happen again, so you try to avoid.
Mm-hmm. So again,
So, okay.
it's coming out of fear, out of what happened, is causing you sometimes to hold on to things that you shouldn't. Now, what is the F word that I'm missing here that faith, what does faith look at? What does faith look at? Faith is the of things, and it gives you evidence. So the fear provides evidence, but faith is supposed to provide evidence also. I'm forgiven through faith that what happened before won't happen again. Forgiveness takes faith. Why so quiet tonight? Okay. So then shake, then do one of those, because if you stare at me with that blank look, I want to think that I'm going over your head with too much information. Okay? Because what I'm trying to do is make you understand exactly what's going on in your mind or in your body, in your spirit, while you're trying to forgive. Why it's so different. For me, in order for me to learn something, to get something, I got to analyze it. What am I doing? You know how when somebody breaks down something, step 1, step 2, step 3, I have to know what's going on. What is my body and my mind doing? Why it's so difficult? My faith, my forgiveness need faith. And we're going to look at what Jesus said to his disciples when we use that, if you have the faith the size of a mustard seed. That was in regards to faith to forgive. Right? But I just wanted to talk about this for a second, okay? All right, so two of the anxieties in life that we have an anxiety about we can't change our past, and we have an anxiety about we can't control our future. Those are two anxieties that you have, and you may not know it, but those are your two anxieties. Those are your two things that make you fearful. You can't change your past. Cannot change your past. And no matter how hard you try, you can't control your future. Which makes it so frustrating. All right? Forgiveness is at the center of our past and our future. What stands in the middle of our past and our future, that's why I put it here right in the middle, is forgiveness. Right? And it's impossible for you to be a disciple or be a child of God without understanding this. Forgiveness. Forgiveness. What is the whole God's redemption, God redemption and dying? Forgiveness. All of that was about teaching us how the distance and the journey, what God would do to forgive us. You get what you're saying. I see your.
Can you forgive somebody and still not trust them?
Yes, but we have to talk about what's in it and the levels of trust. But there's of course levels of trust. So that's going into, because there's forgiveness, and then there's now how you reconcile on what is allowed, what level of trust are you talking about. Those are the things that I want to talk about, right? But that's after. There's tons of people that have the memory of the pain, but we're gonna look at that too. We're gonna look at Joseph's brothers, how he was able to. You have to re-identify the pain, right? And he was able to say, "You meant it for my evil." Right? What you did to me, you meant for evil. But so he was teaching us something in that. But this always happens. Y'all push the class. Y'all push the class too fast.
You can forgive, but you never forget.
We're gonna get there before we get there. All right. So you can push the class. You're pushing the class. You're pushing the class too far.
Sorry.
It's all right. But I'm glad we're gonna get there. All right. So this is mostly about forgiveness. I'm not talking about God forgiveness. I'm talking about you understanding your ability to forgive. This is about Brother Quincy's ability to forgive, your forgiveness to forgive, your forgiveness, because this is not about God's forgiveness. That's receiving forgiveness. I'm talking about how you give forgiveness. That's what I'm talking about here, because we can all echo and praise God about his forgiveness, but tonight I want to talk about how you forgive. Your level of forgiveness. In this fight to be you, everybody shouted about it. In that too, you got to learn, how do you forgive? What is your level of forgiveness? With me so far? Amen. All right. So let's talk about the steps to forgiveness for a second. Did everybody get that? All right. I said tonight it might be a little bit class-centric. All right. Let's talk about our steps. Okay. What do you think is step one about forgiveness?
Accepting.
A good A word, that's right there. It's another one. It's almost the same thing. Acknowledge. Acknowledge the pain.
I was going to say identify.
Identify, acknowledge, accept. Acknowledge the pain. I said the first step. You know why? Because if you act like if you pretend that there's no pain, you will pretend to forgive. Does that make sense? If you think that, oh, I'm fine, nothing wrong with me, then you'll never forgive the way you're supposed to, because the pain is always there. And the reason why it's impossible, because sometimes we think we're stronger than we are, and we don't acknowledge the full pain of what's going on. Does that make sense? Now, for me, when I'm talking about forgiveness is some things in life is not a matter of forgiveness. You don't need to forgive. There's certain things like disappointments, that somebody didn't invite you to a wedding. Right? I think, well, this is why it's important. You got to examine what hurt you. Because some things where I didn't invite you to something, and I'm thinking, oh, this requires forgiveness. No, it don't.
No.
It may require me growing up.
Yeah.
Yes.
It may require me being more, having a higher tolerance. Not being so sensitive. Where it's not on that person, it's on your maturity. And once again, it depends on what's done, right? So, example, again, somebody invited you something, you didn't get an invitation, somebody slighted you by mistake or whatever it is. But it's one of those things, it didn't require forgiveness. Does that make sense? Because if you don't, then you're going to have to forgive a whole bunch of people. And you have to analyze, was this something that needs forgiveness, or is something that I need to adjust my sensitivity level?
I mean, the person that didn't invite
Yeah, I didn't invite you. Let's say I didn't invite you.
and I am mad about it.
Yes.
So it's the both of us because of guilt and things like that.
You may be mad at me and want me to apologize, and I'm not giving him forgiveness, and may hold that against, and now what happens is our relationship is damaged because you want me to forget, you want me to come and apologize, and you're not giving me forgiveness over something that it's something, hey, life happens.
So where do we go from here?
What I want you to do is from now on, you're going to need to analyze what needs forgiveness and what I just need to grow up. Because there's a lot of things that we hold on to where we're looking for, this requires forgiveness, and you can hold up your life where God is trying to say, you just need to mature. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Amen.
Okay? And what I want to do is break down the difference between when we're talking about disloyalty and betrayal. Right? Because some things are slights, some things are disappointments, some things are misunderstandings, some things just a natural course of life where you and a person may not see eye to eye for that moment, and it's not for you to be like, oh my God. It may be something where I say, okay, God, what's the lesson you're trying to teach me? All right. All right? All right. So let's talk about some of the things I put in my notes. Not all hurtful situations require forgiveness. Some people are annoying. Not all situations require forgiveness. Some people are annoying. They do things to get on your nerves. It doesn't need forgiveness. That might be more. Your humility needs to increase, and tolerance. Those are life situations that need to be shrugged off or shaken off. There are certain things that just need to be like shrugged off. Does it make sense? I said this is going to be more class, okay? And you got to analyze certain things in your life that's annoying. Somebody's annoying doesn't require forgiveness, because that person's going to be annoying and they're going to get on your nerves, and that's for you to be like, you know what? Maybe I need to just ignore that. Okay? Because sometimes we can conflate annoyance with forgiveness. They got that person terrible. No. Can you just stop? Okay. Make sense? Now, acknowledge the pain. Now, let's talk about disloyalty. Oh. No. Disloyal. Let's do that. Disloyal. All right. Now we get into the root of what requires forgiveness. Disloyal people. Now, anybody want to talk about what do you think disloyal is? Okay.
You share something confidential, not expecting the person to take it back.
Okay. Disloyalty is when a person that belongs to you treats you like a stranger.
Amen. Amen.
A friend, a partner, a husband, a wife, there is a belonging, right? There's a bond, and then they cast you aside like a stranger. Ever been there?
Yeah. Yes.
And your identity is in them. You belong to them. They belong to you. Right? And then there's a feeling, because they cast you aside as a stranger, there's the feeling that a wall is going up between you and them. Have you ever known that your relationship is just not the same, and you can feel that slowly there is a wall of division that is rising up, and then they pretend like they don't even know you? Right? And then you use words like abandoned. Ever felt abandoned? Forsaken? Let down? Dash me. Well, dash me where it sometimes can become almost humorous and fun. But it's deeper, because you could sometimes play around and say, "Boy, you dash me away," like it's a joke. But then there's really like, no, you abandoned me. You left me to die.
Worse if you have expectations.
Well, because you have expectations because of the relationship. Mm-hmm. There's a bond.
Yeah.
And one of the worst thing you can do is treat a loved one like a stranger. Right? Turn your Bibles to John 14, verse 18. Why do you think Jesus makes an effort to say, I will never leave you?
Because he knows that this will happen.
John 14, John 14, and even from there, he says, in my Father's house there are many mansions, and if I go, because he knows he's leaving, but he doesn't want them to ever feel like I'm forsaking you. John 14, verse 18. What does it say?
I will not leave you comfortless. I will come to you.
I won't treat you, another one, I won't treat you like an orphan. Right? That's what it right? What is it? What does it say?
I will not leave you as orphans. I will come to you.
I will not leave you as a father who just put their children on the side and left them in the care of somebody else, because that child grows up damaged.
Come on.
An orphan. And we can make orphans to our friends too, to our loved ones. That's why he makes such a big deal about saying, I will never leave you, nor forsake you. That I will go with you to the ends of the world. Because he wants to let you know, I'm committed in this relationship, and disloyalty will never come from me. Now, what do you think? But now I'm talking about things that need forgiveness. Now we're in the area, understand, now we're getting deep into what needs forgiveness. Some things just need to be just let go, shrugged off. But disloyalty, now you're talking about moral issues that burn you at the core, where you can't shrug off. So there's disloyalty, loved ones that treat you like a stranger. What do you think betrayal is?
Break somebody's trust. I think I said that was for this love.
The same thing. Betrayal. Anybody want to take another? Right, you're right there. That's one half of it.
When the wall get taller and taller, nobody can go right.
The wall does get taller. That is, yes. Come on. Betrayal. Think Judas. What did Judas do?
Sell them out.
Let's look at our Bibles let's look at Luke 22, verse 1 to 15. Right? While you are looking that up, I'm going to tell you what betrayal is. It's the next step after betrayal. Then the next step is disloyalty. The next step is betrayal. First, Luke 22, 1 to 5, and just hold it there.
1 to 5.
Yeah, 1 to 5. Just hold it there. Don't read anything yet. Want everybody to get it first. Okay? You found it? Yes, this is betrayal. Now, go ahead and read it. Luke 22, 1 to 5.
Now the feast of the unleavened bread.
No, I said you can read now. Okay. I was waiting for you to find it.
Okay, sorry. Now the feast of the unleavened bread, June 9, which is called the Passover.
Uh-huh.
And the chief priests and the scribes sought how they might kill him,
Okay.
for they feared the people.
Mm-hmm.
Then entered Satan into Judas.
Mm-hmm. That's all right.
Judas.
Mm-hmm.
Surname Iscariot, being of the number of the 12.
Mm-hmm.
And he went his way and communed with the chief priests and contained how he might betray him unto them.
Mm-hmm.
And they were glad and covenanted to give him money,
Mhm.
and he promised and sought opportunity to betray him unto them in the absence of the multitude.
Okay, that should be the end of it right there. All right, so it was the end of the Passover, end of the feast. The chief priest met with Judas. Judas knew Jesus' schedule. Look at what the Bible says. They knew where there was not enough people. He was waiting to where Jesus wasn't followed by enough people. Okay? Part of betrayal, not even part, all of betrayal is not only now somebody you love treats you like a stranger, but somebody loves sells you out, gives personal information to your enemy. Betrayal is when you take personal information from the person that you love, they have now become a stranger, and you sell it to your enemy. When the person you love not only treats you as a stranger, but hands over personal information to your enemy.
Double trouble.
You betray me when you take the secret I trusted you and reveal to you, and you bring it to someone that they can use against me.
Or even not giving it to someone, but using what you know against somebody. Like if you know somebody has a problem with something, and it's because
You use it against them
Right.
to have an advantage.
right.
So I've taken what you told me personally. Now I use that against you to take advantage of you. But of course, that's between you and I. But when I take that information, and I know Sister Denise may not like you, and I sell it to her, so that now she has an advantage over you, that's betrayal. It's one thing if you and I have something and I use it. That's still bad. But when I know you and this person have aught, and I say, here's his secrets. This is what about him that you could use against him. Now I give them. That's what Judas did. Right? But she cut it and then set it up where they came. The Philistines came the next day. But Judas said, "Let me look at Jesus' itinerary. Where there's people and where there's not people. I'm gonna wait to sell him to you when he's the most vulnerable." Look what the Bible says. He sold him when he was telling them when he was not around people, because people would have protected Jesus from being taken. So I'm gonna wait to the perfect opportunity where Jesus is vulnerable, and then I'm gonna tell you, take him now.
Yes. Pastor, what if it is among brethren, and a problem arrived, but you did not say it to the individual, but you say it to an unsaved. Instead of saying it to your brother or your sister, but you say it to an unsaved.
Okay. About a problem.
About the problem that arrived, and knowing that it concerned your sister or your brother in the Lord, but you take it outside.
To me, I want to know about the intention. What was the intention? Like, because sometimes we have moments where we're venting, and it's not to do harm, but I have a lot of pressure that I'm going through, and I want to share information with you, right? And I can say, I'm not trying any evil intent. It's just that there's a lot on my mind. And then you got to be mindful who you share information with also. But I know too, when guilt or something is on your mind, and sometimes it's so heavy, any ear, when your heart, see, here's the Bible said, when your heart is overwhelmed, lead me to a rock that is higher. But what does your heart do when it's overwhelmed and you led to someone that's not a rock?
To any rock.
Any rock. That's not higher.
Lower rock, higher
And
rock.
it can bring harm.
Absolutely. But I do at the same time, I sympathize and I understand with the people that sometimes carrying around this baggage of heaviness. Now, I'm not saying go around this blabbing your mouth,
How you trust somebody, you know?
right? Because don't say well, pastor said. No, but I do understand that sometimes something is really heavy. And it's heavy on your mind, and somebody just come by and say, what's going on, sis? And all of a sudden, you're having a regular thing about, oh, it's 90 degrees, and you're having a regular conversation, then all of a sudden, all your personal information to start flowing out like, one day.
That happens.
You ever be,
Other people sometimes just tell you all their business.
how about when you meet people on the street? And sometimes you just say, hey, good morning. And all of a sudden, good morning. The next thing you know, they're telling them about their kids. I took an Uber and I was driving and I was just saying, how's the day? And it went from how's my day to her son is on drugs. They've been fighting drugs all their life. And the husband beat her up. And it went from, and I was like, well, it was 5 minutes.
You know what?
In 2 minutes, I knew her whole life story.
You know what nice is when they sit down beside you and they say, oh, we can't kill a cop, they don't know you.
And that is a relief. That is, think of it as a pressure cooker
Yes. So that will look
cooking, and part of what makes the pressure cooker work is because it still have a little top where the steam could come out. Or think about a kettle. When it boil, it whistle.
But sometimes though, Pastor, even though we as individuals might look at it that way, you unknowingly just saved someone. Because the mere fact that you were in that position
Right.
to hear,
Right.
and it's,
Which is why it takes a maturity level of the listener
yes. Yes.
to understand. I've just opened my safety. Somebody just opened their safety box, and gave me the cards of information, and now I have to be respectful and lock it in mine. Right?
To show you that there's a lot of people in need of therapy.
Absolutely. It's a lot.
Just to release.
Yes.
Just for someone to listen.
Yes. That's why the Bible doesn't leave it to just confessing to God. The Bible didn't leave it to just confessing to God. What did he say? Confess your faults. That's why. That's why. Because he understands that sometimes, not that God doesn't understand, but he understands that you're going to need another sister, another brother to be there. Not, he's there, of course, but he understands the pressure of holding some information that we have.
But then you also have to use your wisdom.
You have to use wisdom. Now you're getting into things where we could talk, because when wisdom is one of those things that leave when you're desperate.
Yes.
Oh yeah. If you're not in control, when you're desperate, you do anything.
Pastor,
Desperate,
go back to
desperate,
what
desperate,
she
mental.
said. My sister here said, you save someone's life.
You do. Well,
So is that
the problem. Here's the problem. I agree.
aligning with wisdom? I mean, what if
Here's the problem. I could see with that. Depend on the maturity of the listener.
of the listener.
Because what you can do, if the person is immature and they can't handle, you could get killed twice.
Yeah.
And then, because when you say,
More than twice, because especially I'm going to use a church.
Uh-huh.
Especially in a church. I could be burdened down from something
Right.
either from my past
Right.
or current, present situation. And I have a good rapport with Sister Chrissy. And I share with her because I want to unburden myself.
Right?
And just to say, this is my issue that I'm going through. Now, as time goes on, I got over that issue and everything is good. But here comes Elder, a new member of the church, didn't know about my past
Right.
issue. And for some reason,
It finding his way.
it found its way from Sister Chrissy, was the only person other than God that I confided in. And it goes to Elder. No. For me, as a believer, that's one of the biggest betrayal I can face within, whether it's my home, my congregation. So now my question is, I know how I dealt with it and how I deal with it, but I'm still not sure what's the best way for.
You confronting Chrissy?
No, I don't confront Chrissy.
Wait, you didn't?
I did not.
Do you know where it came from? Do you know where your
Yeah, I'm absolutely positive it came from Chrissy.
Because she's the only one that would have known.
She's the only one who would have known.
Did you confront Chrissy?
No, I did not.
Well, then you got a problem.
Because, and my reason for not confronting
Right.
Chrissy, I realized that Chrissy has
Did you know?
changed.
Okay, hold on. Did you? Oh, so while you told her, Chrissy was in immature.
It was in showing maturity.
Right.
But somewhere along the line,
Okay.
something changed.
Okay.
And now, so if I confront Chrissy, instead of me just confronting friend to friend and say, hey,
You know.
when I told you about the red bean, I really trusted you as a friend. I realized that if I confront Chrissy, not only now is Elder going to know about it, but it's just going to blow up because Chrissy's a drama, now has become a drama queen.
Well, I mean,
I don't want all of that back and forth.
again, I can't place it so much because that's the maturity level that you had when you opened your mouth.
Yes.
Right. You
Like, so for instance,
uh-huh.
a secret.
Yes.
When you share a secret, you share with somebody you trust.
Yes.
Then, for instance, the person who you trust them to somebody else.
Yes.
You tell somebody else.
Yes.
And then the person trusts somebody
Yes.
else. You know?
Yep.
Once you tell her.
Yep. Yeah. And but here's I think we went through this with trust when we had our trust series. That was the purpose of it, that you have to trust people when you open your safe. When you open your heart safe and your mind safe, and you put the passcode in, and you pull out that slip of paper, and you put it in, and you give it to somebody, you better make sure that person have a safety deposit box too. That's what makes relationships grow, because I see how you handle that information, and it builds my trust to come back to you, because I know you are a reliable place and trustworthy to handle the information of my life.
Can it be that you just share it in spite of if the person's going to talk or not?
Well, then that goes back to that goes back to your doorstep, where you have to be mature enough to understand this information is private and highly classified, and it can't be shared with any and everyone. Where you have to take responsibility. I messed up this one.
Yes.
Right? And oftentimes you have to see, what we don't normally do is take the bullet.
Because that's what in this.
I opened my mouth and I shouldn't have.
I shouldn't have. So I took the bullet. Instead of confronting, you just take the bullet.
Right. I mean, you can still confront as far as, because you don't.
Exactly.
Huh?
Because that's it. That's where I was leading up
that's all
to.
forgiveness
Because now you forgive the person.
And you tell them no. You can still let them know.
And you still love
Right,
them and everything.
right.
Because it would not have, if you were just.
Right. And it goes to what our sister Pat said earlier. Now I know the level of trust that I can have.
Exactly.
Because sometimes you have to get burned.
Yes.
I've experienced that of being burned to understand that, man, that's hot. I must.
Yeah, but you don't knife cut you one time, you don't make it cut you two.
Well, that's the whole point. You got to remember that too. You know what I'm saying? Unless that person, through time, you see that they have developed and mature, and you're still gonna be kind of leery, but still. All right.
Pastor, I know you're pushing on,
Okay.
but based on what that young man said back there about, you tell somebody about, you know that game where the
Telephone,
you know,
absolutely.
and then
It changes.
will come out,
Right.
all the
Right.
And another thing, as a therapist or anyone who's being that backboard to listen, after you unload, sometimes, not all, but sometimes it becomes negative on the person that you unloaded
Absolutely.
do. So that person has to do many things in order to
Right.
get rid of what they just heard.
Yes.
Because
I'll tell you from personal experience, that's one of the things you learn. I was telling you the other day, one of the things you learn being a counselor
Yeah.
is that you're going to, for instance, someone is going to come to me with a lot of damaging, negative information.
and when you get home, you got
And it has, and that person has to be able to handle that, break it down, and let it go.
and not let it go to
Right,
someone else.
absolutely. That's what you're entrusted when you the first day in there's two things the first day in counseling. Right, that doesn't affect me. The two things that they
Studying counseling.
okay, the two things that you're gonna learn that of obviously that and that you don't use that personal information because the person, the patient, is gonna develop a loving relationship with you.
Yes. Confident.
And sometimes
Where emotionally they become attached, where they start to love you,
Yes, I love you.
Because when someone don't,
they come to you. And you have to be, as a counselor, be careful because now that relationship is becoming loving, especially when it's like a lady man. Then now that person says, oh my God, my husband is doing this, and they tell you, then all of a sudden they look at you like, oh, you're my savior.
Transference.
And you're giving them the ear and attention that they was hoping from their husband. And they completely blur the lines that this is professional. And I'm listening because, and you have to maintain your integrity.
The boundary, you have to set it up first.
But it still get blurred when they start crying on your shoulder.
Then you switch to another counselor.
Right. But then that counselor has to be mature enough to say, hey, this is getting too warm.
Yeah.
You need to find somebody else.
Yeah.
But I'll tell you right now, it doesn't happen all the time. And you can see a lot of relationships spring out of counselor and patient.
but Pastor, many times some of them tell you, then tell plenty people.
Before. And so
Yeah.
I say you want
Because you know why they keep telling?
That's why they go.
Because they're looking for a solution.
And then you know to God say you don't.
That's what it is.
And they blame the people who say, I tell mother then time. And I know them not hear it from me. And you go and love your mouth somewhere else and you don't know where coming from. You're going to blame me and you don't.
You know what I realize too? Sometimes we have to refuse information too.
Yes.
I do.
Yeah.
Yes.
I refuse information. Don't tell me.
I
do that. I don't want to hear it.
Don't tell me. If it's about somebody, I don't want to hear it. If it's not about the horse, let's save it. I don't want to hear about nobody cat. I don't want to hear about sister Ding cat, Ding dog, this puss. I don't want to hear it. If it's about your life, you could tell me anything you want about your life. But don't come to me and like, you know who's struggling? If it ain't you, don't tell me.
Yeah,
Pastor,
that's the right way.
Oh, absolutely. No, not today. Not today, devil.
there was a pastor I was listening to. He said if anyone is gossiping and they call his house, he goes 1 minute and he goes to the three-way and call the person.
Oh, absolutely.
And then that.
Oh, before, and if you come to me, I'm like, did you speak to X, Y, or did you speak to this person? And if you didn't, well, then you need to go handle that first. I don't want to hear it. Because then they pull you into it, and I don't need to be pulled into it. And, all right, man, look at the time. This is what happened last week again.
Because it's good.
Huh?
It's good discussion.
I know, it is getting kind of warm. All right, so we found out, man, there's some, I guess we got to save some for the next week. All right? Betrayal. That's when we talked about betrayal. We talked about when you're hurt. That requires forgiveness. So the step one is acknowledging the pain, acknowledging the betrayal. Now, the second thing. Okay, let me get this. Did I get that? All right. Make sure I get this right. This is step 2. Okay. Okay. Surgically repurpose the pain.
Is that step 2?
That's step 2.
Really?
Yes.
I put a number in my stuff that one way.
Oh, I'm sorry. Step 1 is acknowledging the betrayal, acknowledge the disloyalty, acknowledge what it is, what requires forgiveness. That's step 1. Because if you don't acknowledge it, you can't begin to forgive.
Oh, I had disloyalty as step 2.
No. Here's what I want you to do with disloyalty. I want you to label what the pain is.
Oh, I did, Pastor.
Was this betrayal? Was this disloyalty? And then I want you to make sure that you categorize your pain to know what some things you need to just push aside. You understand? I want you to start categorizing. You know when the doctor goes, what's your pain level? What's the pain level? He say, what's the 10? What's the pain level? 0 to 10. You say 1, he say, okay, you can get rid of it. That's not nothing I worry about. And that's what you need to start doing with your pain level too. You need to go into how much did that hurt you, 0 to 10.
That one is always a
Amen. All right? Because I don't want you to label 1s 10s. And that's what we can do. We can label a 2 pain and name it 10, and we make a big deal about something you just gotta just get through. Because I do that a lot. Like, what kind of pain is that? That ain't no big pain. And that's not to discount it or ignore it or discredit that it hurts you, but it's a matter of how long you're going to stay there. Some things you just got to accept. This is the way this person is. When are you going to get it? Because if you don't, you are going to try to want to change that person, and it's not. That's what we talked about last week.
What about if Abraham brother, Moses' brother, when the 2 sons die, and that 4 minutes when the 2 sons, God killed them, and he was there for 30 and he said, get up now and do his work. It's 4 minutes.
Moses too.
Moses' brother, Aaron.
When he died?
When the 2 sons them was doing wrongs in the church.
You mean Eli?
Oh,
You mean Eli?
no. You're talking about
Eli.
Achan.
Eli.
When Achan was...
I know Eli, the 2 sons died.
Hophni and
You were
Phinehas.
given.
That's Eli.
Eli.
Aaron also.
Aaron.
Aaron, 2 sons died.
Yes.
They touched
Remember they used to serve the offering, they used to serve in the church and they doing wrongs.
Wrongs in
And
the
when
church.
the Lord killed them and Aaron was there many days for worrying and he said, get up and do my work. So that's one.
But we're talking about forgiveness. I guess what I'm trying to do is attach forgiveness. That somebody do something. This is something that God did to, let's say this is what God did. But I'm trying to attach. I'm trying to attach what somebody does something to you. Huh?
Whose sons, she said, Aaron?
No, I guess she's trying to the pain, right? But I'm trying to when I'm talking about what somebody do to you, like I do something. What God does is what God does is what God does.
No, I would just say if that coming just like we talk about this pain, the pain that Aaron was feeling for his son, you know.
But that it's who does. See, part of it is who did it. You know what I'm saying? That's what I'm talking about. Who did it? You can't repurpose God's pain. God's pain. I'm talking about like if I do something to you. That's what I'm trying. That makes sense? Right. It's like brother to brother, sister to sister, cousin, Judas to Jesus. You know what I mean? What God does. Okay. All right. That's what I was talking about with Joseph and his brothers. That was a level of disloyal and betrayal. They sold him. Okay? So let's look at Genesis 50. But I understand what you're saying, Mother Denton. I do. Yeah, sure.
So are there pains that we shouldn't forgive?
No.
Like,
Genesis 50.
because like some people are just bad people and they
Yes.
continue to do bad if you let them. So should we then just like walk away from them?
Every, you know why I know that every pain, every bad person needs to be forgiven, because I think of me.
You forgive them, but you're not gonna put yourself in the position
Right.
to be.
And when we don't, all of a sudden we hold ourselves to a higher standard than everybody else, and you can be careful, because then it could be prideful, where you think that person doesn't worth no forgiveness because they're terrible.
So what if you forgive the person, but you don't see any changes in the person, they're constantly doing you harm? But yet you're constantly forgiving what they're still doing.
Yeah, we talk. I don't know if we have time. We could talk about that, because Jesus talked to the disciples about that too.
That's like a divorce.
70 times 7.
He talked about it too. Hold on. Okay. See, are we gonna do this finish tonight or no?
Yes. You said Genesis 50?
Genesis 50, verse 20. So remember, you told me I could finish tonight.
Yeah.
Okay.
You intended to harm me, but God intended it for good. Accomplish what is now being done, the saving of many lives.
Did you see what he did? Genesis 50, verse 20.
It's so different from what
It's probably a different version of the Bible. NIV. And what you have? Kate, what you reading?
King James.
He said, but as for you, thought evil against me, but God meant it unto good, to bring to pass as it is this day, to save much.
Did you see what he did there?
People alive.
He found the pain, changed the purpose of it. You did that for evil, but God did it for my good. He took the pain and changed the strength of it by saying, that evil that you tried, God turned that around and he made me better. Now you know what he just did? He just changed history. So when he looks at his pain and looks back in his life, he doesn't see pain. He sees, I see purpose in that, because that what you did made me better today.
Amen.
See how you changed? You see how you could change your history? You see all of those things where God showed up even in that and made you better today. That's how you do it. You look at what they did, and you look where you are, and say, you meant it for evil.
My God, turn it around for good.
But what you did only made me stronger. Make sense?
Oh, it makes a lot of sense.
Okay?
I live my life that way.
All right. Let's look at Leviticus 16. Huh? Because at the same time, I want to be mindful. I'm fine. I'm worried about you. I'm good. Don't worry about me. No, don't worry about me. I worry about you. Leviticus 16.
Leviticus 16.
I don't live 2 hours. I live just 1 hour. Just one.
Leviticus
16. Leviticus 16. All right. So I'm going to point out. Oh, Leviticus 16. Right? Now I want you. Oh, come on, computer. All right. There you go. All right.
verse.
I'm going to give you some verses. Let me see, because I want to get to a good verse for you. I know I've seen it in verse 20. All right, let's start. Because it's so much, I don't want to go through the whole thing. For tonight, read Leviticus 16. All right, this is what they call Yom Kippur, or the Day of Atonement. All right, okay. Homework. And I want you to see what they use. This is what they call scapegoats. A scapegoat. You know what a scapegoat is? A scapegoat is when we blame somebody. Like if I'm angry at somebody, I take it out on you. You become a scapegoat for me. And Have anybody ever used their anger against, I'm mad at something over here and I take it out on somebody else? Yes. That they call that you just made a scapegoat. Or somebody would say, don't scapegoat me. Okay. Or what happens, you mad at work and you come home and you scream at it right in the house.
Or you're having a personal issue.
You're having a personal issue and you let that anger spill over to somebody else, and they call that a scapegoat. But that term is biblical. Okay? That's from Leviticus 16. Oh yeah. So here's what they did before Jesus is our... Okay. Here's what they did. There were three, you had one bull and two goats. Right? The priest would get one bull, two goats at this time of year when it's a Day of Atonement. Right? And so the priest would dress up, and what he would do is he would kill one, and then they would do like a random drawing to figure out which goat would live and which goat would die. Okay. What they did now for one is that one remained to live to sacrifice, and now the priest would take all the sins of Israel, right? Well, all the sins of Israel, and he would transfer it to a goat. Right? With me so far? Now that goat will be led out into a wilderness. Right? He will led out to a... Now most places, either you want to live, just go to a cliff, a hilly place, somewhere with sharp edges. The purpose is that when I transfer all the issues on that goat don't come back. So he's leaving with all the personal issues that I had in the camp of Israel, and it goes out and die, so it don't come back. So they'll transfer all of their pain on something and lead it away from the camp. Does that make sense? Do you see what's going on here? Huh?
Yes.
Now, once it's transferred out, right, he'll change his clothes. Because now he just dealt with something dirty. He'll change his clothes, wash it, and make a sacrifice to God. Representing like, okay, I left that dirty thing. It's gone. It's not coming back. Now I'm going to have a goat to sacrifice in my house. Okay. How does that relate to what goes on? The same way with our memories, with our bad situations, we got to learn how to send it away. Make sure it goes to a cliff, die somewhere. We come back in, remember Sunday, wash our face, change our clothes, because I've just released all that negativity, and I'm going to make sure it doesn't come back to the camp.
But you have to be mindful of that. That's the promise you're making.
That it won't come,
it won't come back.
And that's why they wanted to make sure the goat went to a cliff or hilly place where it can't come back and feed.
Right. So that mean they make sure they be mindful where they're letting go.
They learn about somebody would take it. Yeah. They would designate a person. Yeah. Read it when you go home. They would designate a person, and they'll lead them out far into the wilderness to make sure, because if they don't, that same goat can come back to the camp and eat. See how that's symbolic? That sometimes we got to take our issues, let it go, and don't let it come back.
And if you're starting afresh,
and you don't want to put that on a loved one. Like some of our issues, we scapegoat and we put it on our loved one, and it's not fair to them. It's not fair to them, because now they just took all that stuff and you passed it on to them, and now they're wondering where they're going to do it. And guess what you know what they're going to do? They're going to pass it on to somebody else.
So when they put the bread and the water, and put it on the water, when it's swimming away, what is that?
The bread on the water?
The bread, they put the bread, the juice when I think it's from a culture, this one I did.
You before?
Yes, so they put the bread, they break the bread and put it on the water like the sea.
I don't.
Yes.
Well, I'm just talking about. I'm just talking about the goats. Everybody bring. Yeah, I don't know. I don't. I have no idea. I just know about for this is what their ritual was.
We could research it.
I will definitely. But what I was trying to say is that be careful with that some of our issues, we put it on our kids, we put it on our family, and where do they go? After we make them scapegoats, now they're holding our anger.
Come on.
And we just transferred all of our issues and anger on them.
Come on. Yes, sir.
And where do they go? And then what happens is one of the totem pole. Like, you gave it to me, and I'm going to give it to somebody underneath me. Right? The head of the house scream at this person, so the person who's at their head, they scream at, and they keep passing down. The director screamed at the manager screamed at the employees screamed.
But you see that in families sometimes too, you know, the transference, like
Yes,
a
absolutely.
mother or a father
Screams.
and you scream, and then
The kids
child starts screaming,
fighting with their sister.
and they fight with the sister, they fight in school.
Yep,
they fight- and
absolutely.
it's a total transference.
Yep.
And sometimes we think, as you mentioned, Sister Hilary mentioned about the children, you mentioned it too. Sometimes when you be sharing in my class Sunday morning with the kids, that we do understand that there are times they go through stuff, not because they're minor. It doesn't mean that they're not experiencing.
They are.
They're
Right.
going through.
Right.
And oftentimes we think they're not listening, we think they're not sensitive to what is happening.
Right. Right.
And I'm being very mindful, especially with my kids.
Absolutely.
Because I've learned a lot, Pastor.
Mm-hmm.
I've been around different environments,
Mhm.
different. So I've learned a lot. So I learned how to protect my children somewhat.
Mm-hmm.
Because I know that at times it can be transferable,
Mhm.
which is we don't really understand what is happening. And I can become frustrated at times.
Mhm.
Sometimes to speak to myself,
Mhm.
I have to be gentle with them. I can't be bashing them at all the time.
You can't, because they, again, this is parenting too. One day we talk about it, because you screaming at them, sometimes they don't have the maturity to voice what's going on, and you'll learn out later on that what you just transferred to them, they hold, but they can't express it, and it's only when they get older they can tell you and explain what's going on. But sometimes the pain that they go, or they'll take it in when they see parents fight, this person fight, they hold it in, and because they can't express it verbally, they act it out physically. And it's only when they get older, now I can say they're able to give a voice to the issue that they have.
Or they sometimes, when they get older, they develop habits that we don't like.
You look at molested, with kids that got molested, when the kids that got molested and they didn't know how to explain the pain, and then some people say, why did you wait so long to say it? It's because my voice was too immature to describe what I was going through. So when I got old enough at 18, 17, now I can express the trauma. And scared. That's scared, and they right, and that's another thing. They can't verbalize it. Right? Fear. And you can't talk it out, right, and still in the same environment, and they can't express. Okay? All right, this is the last, and then we got to move on. Okay? And turn to Luke 17. Luke 17, all right? And this is where we'll end at tonight. And we're ending at this tonight. And we'll pick up something else next week.
You hoping, right?
Yes. All right. Luke 17. And I want to read from 1 to 5. Luke 17. When you found it, say amen. All right. Jesus said to his disciples, things that cause people to trip and fall into sin, this is Common English Bible, must happen. Things that cause people to trip and fall into sin must happen. But how terrible is it for a person through whom they happen? That people are going to trip, but don't let it be you that caused it. That's what he's trying to say. Get it? It would be better for them to be thrown in a lake with a large stone hung around their necks than to cause one of these little ones to fall into sin. Don't be the reason why people fall, but things in life is going to happen. Watch yourselves. If your brother or your sister sins, warn them to stop. If they change their hearts and live, forgive them. Even if someone sins against you 7 times in one day and return to you 7 times and says, I'm changing my ways or I'm sorry, you must forgive them. The apostle said to the Lord, increase our faith.
Exactly.
Hold on. All right? And here's what he said. Here's what the Lord said. The Lord said, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed. See, oftentimes we use this as in getting money and whatnot. God, he wasn't talking about money. He was talking about forgiveness. Right? We use it as to get things. Like, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, we were like, I'm going to get a car. No, he's not talking about that. He's talking about it's hard if somebody do you something wrong and they come to you and say, forgive me. He says, forgive them. The Lord said, the Lord, verse 6, the Lord replied, if you have faith the size of a mustard seed, you can say to the mulberry tree, be uprooted and planted in the sea, and it will obey you. Okay. So here, God is not they were saying, increase my faith. And Jesus wasn't saying, it's not a matter of your faith need to be increased. It's the kind of faith that you have.
As I mentioned, Apostle, did he mention somewhere where he said he gave everyone faith according to their...
The measure of faith. He's trying to say that even that littlest amount of faith that you have, you're capable of forgiving somebody that hurts you 7 times per day, and they come to you and say, forgive me. And what if they don't change? He says, you have enough faith to handle that. Because I hear all the time, you know what you hear all the time? What if somebody hurts you and they keep doing the same thing? The Bible says, forgive them.
But you know, I always look when people does say that, I always just say, like me personally, I mess up daily, whether in thoughts or action, but still I want God to forgive me. I ask His forgiveness, and I expect the forgiveness from Him. So why then can I not do the same too?
We sell our faith short, is what he's trying to say. That you have more faith to forgive than you realize. That's what he's trying to say. Jesus is trying to say, you underestimated your power of faith to forgive.
And it's a choice to free will.
And here's the way I thought of it. If you have a Lamborghini or a Ferrari that you can drive up to 200 miles per hour, but you choose to drive it at 20 miles per hour, is there anything wrong with the car?
No.
It's your choice of how you deciding to drive. The car can go more, but you ain't pushing it to that. He's saying, your faith that you have so much faith to forgive, but you minimize it and say, increase my faith, and Jesus is saying, you don't need more faith. You have more faith in you than you're willing to accept.
Would you say that that's the same like you're saying, don't ask God to bless you, you're already blessed?
Almost, yes. Almost. But what I'm saying, right, that you have it already. It's just acknowledging it. So they screamed, oh my God, increase my faith, because there's no way if somebody keep coming and begging forgiveness 7 times for the day, and they said, make my faith bigger, and Jesus was saying, you already got it. The way you're using your faith, you're minimizing it. If it's this small, it's strong enough to mature and spread. And next week we'll talk about a mustard seed, what it's about. Okay? But not tonight. Because we did a lot.
Would I be jumping ahead if I would ask them how would we go about, like what steps would we take?
For how our forgiveness to mature,
Right.
yeah, you might be going a step ahead. Come back next week. If I give it all in one night, you won't come back.
Pastor.
Yes. Yeah, you ever watch the TV? It's episodes. It's episodes, right? Week after week. You're like, come back next week. TV continue.
No, it's Law and Order Marathon tonight.
Oh, yeah. Well, we don't have the time for a marathon. We don't have the time for a marathon. But tonight we talked about recognizing it. And then how you make your faith mature, your faith for forgiveness mature. There is a maturing process that happens, a growing process. Okay? But the first tonight, I didn't want to get to that because a lot of times we jump ahead. I want you to analyze your pain first. Analyze the level of pain that you have. And I want you to embrace it and acknowledge it. Because the reason why we don't forgive properly is because we deny the pain that we go through. We deny. We say, oh, no, she not bothering me. She not troubling me, but you're still talking about it 2 years later. You remember when somebody, here's what happens. Tonight, you'll talk about something that happened 2 years, and then say you're over it.
You never forgot.
I know you never, but what I'm saying, I can still hear it.
But if we keep using, that's something that kind of annoys me when people say, I forgive you, but I don't forget.
Mm-hmm.
Because for me, if I keep replaying it in my head, I'm getting angry all over
Right.
again. So if I forgive you
Right.
for slapping me across the face,
Right.
I really and truly.
That's, I see, you didn't repurpose the pain.
I got slapped so I could learn how to be patient.
Right. So here's what I'm listening for, and then I'm done. That's it. That's it.
No more questions.
No more. Here's what I'm listening for. I'm listening how you acknowledge it, but I'm also listening how you repurposed it. What have you learned? What have it taught you? Because that's how. Because if not, I still hear pain. And I don't hear purpose. And so when I'm listening for purpose. I hear the pain. What if somebody do it? They slap me. Okay, I hear the pain. Now tell me, what have you learned? What did it teach you?
Just like Sister Denise said, you have to forget it.
Repurpose it, I prefer.
Repurpose
Yes,
it.
yes.
Because if you don't, you're causing hurt to you.
You're still living it. You're reliving it.
You're internalizing it. You think you, but each time.
And it holds you back.
And it definitely holds you back.
It holds you back from your future.
Who can forget something like that?
Repurpose it. You use, it's painful. You repurposed it to move on to your future. Because pain, if you let it, will let you stay there.
And if you condition your mind and say, that happened.
I see a hand.
But when you get better, you're going to say, you give thanks for the pain where you go through.
That's what I was just
Well,
gonna say,
that's
because
part of
you
repurposing it too.
Yeah, I said that too. I said I thank them for what
That-
they put me through.
That's a part of it. That's a part of it. In all things, learn to give thanks.
Right.
Because that's a part of repurposing the pain too.
Because it made me stronger.
That's a part.
More anointing. I think we
That's a
need,
part.
I think we need some of those goats.
No, that's over. Jesus came.
But,
I know, I'm just joking.
but you understand what I'm saying? Like all of that, your praises is not just staying in what he's done. It's future aspects of it too. I've learned from this and I thank you that it didn't kill me, that it didn't do this, but I thank you because it made me better. I can see that I'm stronger and that I got the experience.
What if you could change your history? And what does it say if you would opt not to go through that again?
If you can change, well, that's the future.
No, like
Okay.
That-
So in your mind, you're saying, if I can take this part of my history, delete it, right? So that I never happened, right? And then move on. But then that's discrediting how much that part of your history made you who you are.
Who you are.
Right? It's discrediting that if you remove any moment out of your life, it changes who you are. Now, there are some bad situations that we went through. But I realized I can't play with the thought of deleting my history because I can't.
But then maybe we could do like she said, just like in Leviticus, God came, but still, some of us are struggling with letting go of the pain or forgetting the pain. So we could probably use something as a symbol, symbolizing this hurt, this pain. Tie it in a black bag.
Well, that happened already. I know you are similar. But here's what I'm saying to you is that there's nothing you can do that can change. You have to change the identity of your past. Right? You can't delete it. You have to change the meaning of it. Right? That's what you do. You can't. Because if you play with that thought of trying to delete your history, there'll be moments in your tons of moments. Yeah, I want to delete that, delete that, delete that. And you'll be stuck in your past deleting stuff rather than moving forward. You understand what I'm saying? Which is why when we came to God, he said he changed our identity. He says, you ain't an old person anymore. You are in the new person. I'm not deleting it, but understand that you are now new. I'm changing your identity.
That's why when you say to Paul that
Oh, sorry.
is sufficient.
I see something else.
I understand what you're saying.
But
What
it's applying it.
when I said like if you could, I think I'm just not making my question or what I'm trying to say as clear as I can.
Okay.
You were talking about forgiveness,
Mhm.
right? And my thinking or the thought that I'm having is if you really forgive someone for something, because you said something to me one time like about picking at scabs, and
Your scabs.
right,
Right.
my scabs.
Yes.
And like when you've gone through something traumatic, and like it's like you try to get past it, and then you find yourself going back to the same hurt, like and you feel like you have forgiven someone for something, but then you find yourself feeling those same emotions over again. What I'm saying is if in your mind you could say, if I had because like you're saying, when you repurpose it, you accept that you've gone through this, and you say, okay, well, if I didn't go through this, and I wouldn't have grown or whatever. But if you have really forgiven somebody, and if you could go back and not have to go through that thing again, does that mean that you really haven't forgiven?
If there is some way for you to change or alter what you went through, right, so that you can be better today, in order for you to, so you're saying, if I want to change my past, does that take away from me forgiving?
Right, that's what I'm trying to say.
Right?
It sounds confusing.
No, I get what you're saying. If I change my past, then I wouldn't have to put the energy into forgiving. That's what you're trying to say. So almost, I don't have the strength to forgive, so I rather if I can just change my past, where if it didn't happen, I wouldn't have to forgive. If I could change my past, I wouldn't have to forgive right now.
Well, what I'm saying is,
Okay.
if you have really forgiven someone,
Right. Would you want to still go back in your past?
Right, that's what I'm trying to say.
Yes, that's what I'm saying. Okay. Yeah. So if I've learned how to forgive, why does my mind keep going back?
That's why I asked myself the same question.
Why does my mind keep going back?
Especially,
Because you can't change what happened. It's true.
Right, you cannot change what
You can't. You can't change what happened. That's true. Your mind is responding to what actually happened, right? And that's unchangeable. Now, faith is saying it's speaking to. It has to speak to also because this has happened. So now the faith is giving me substance and evidence of what I need it to be. You understand? So it's right now you have that battle. You're battling with all the voices that we all have of our future and our past, of our present right now, of what we're going through, what we've been through, and your mind will keep bringing it up. Right? That's the voices that you got to fight, that your mind keeps bringing up, and the accuser, don't forget, he'll bring it up too. Right? But you have to have confidence in that what's what it was. This is what it is right now. But yeah, but the thing that what's make it hard is different if it was a lie. But what she's fighting is the truth. Although it was a truth that was history, and it's not faith now because you're a different person now.
Because the past is the past. But you also, I find that...
Old Pat, new Pat.
Yeah, I find too that in forgiving
Right.
the hurt and the pain,
Right.
this might not sound very rational, but it's something I do. I forgive myself in whatever...
And areas that too, yes.
So I start by forgiving myself
Mm-hmm.
first. Even though looking at the picture, I didn't do anything to warrant what happened. I had no control over it.
Mm-hmm.
But I realized that if I start forgiving myself, like one of the things I say, I forgive myself for having higher expectation for someone else.
Right.
Than they
Because that's part of it too.
themselves.
She's battling herself
And
too,
if
yes.
I start doing that,
Yes.
if I do that, and when I do that, it takes a little time.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't happen right away. Probably end up crying and going through it and bawling, and then to prayer and all of that. But when I do all of that, for me, that's my first cleansing. And when I forgive myself, even though I didn't do anything to deserve it, and I forgive myself, then I start forgiving the person and forgiving the event or whatever happened becomes so much easier for me. And I can actually forgive and don't replay it in my head.
And then Pat, you got to understand too, Sister Pat, you got to understand feelings. You know, they're not the most reliable sources of information either, because they're obviously feelings are one of those things that's up today, tomorrow, and so that's again where your faith comes in too, where your feelings has to catch up to your faith, right? Your faith is here, and your feelings are here, and oftentimes they don't. You know, you have to give yourself time where your faith is here, but your feelings here, and there's that gap in between, and where you have to give yourself time to understand that your faith, I'm going to respond in faith, even though I don't feel like it. That's the thing. That's what church is. I don't feel like be here, but I'm showing up because my faith says I will be here. This is the day the Lord has made. I will rejoice and be glad in it.
So
Right.
Paul, when I don't know if this is in it, but I just think when Paul asked God to take away the things from him,
Mm-hmm. His grace is sufficient.
Right.
Yes.
He said his grace is sufficient
Right.
for us because God died. I believe that God died for us, but the stain of sin cannot move.
It moved.
No, not so. I mean, Pastor. I mean, like, you do things or you things in the past,
Mm-hmm.
and you come to Christ and you accept Christ and everything.
Mm-hmm.
But sometimes the mind go back
Of course.
to the things,
Right.
and that is a stain what we cannot get rid of. So what, as Christian, I believe that because the devil know that we have that stain, he feed on it. So what I do is like I decided to go closer. That's the only thing you can do, is go closer to God, to get that result that I get, you know?
I think the best thing, trust the blood.
Yes.
It worked. It's no close. You don't need to get. I mean, not to take. You don't have to fast more. You have to pray harder.
No.
You don't have to.
Just close.
What he did on Calvary was sufficient.
Yes.
Right? Because I don't want. Because sometimes what you could do, you could turn this into ritual where you say, you know what? Because of this, I'm going to pray 15 times harder.
No.
Read 13 more scriptures. Spin around. All right, but then you'll get into the pattern of becoming religious. Trust what he did on Calvary. When he did that, all the stain, all everything that they went through, that result is when he got up and you put all that scapegoat. He took on every sin. That's why we don't need any more scapegoats. When he took on every sin for ourselves and died in our, there's nothing. And that speaks more. His blood speaks more than anything that you've been through in the past. Let his blood speak. Right? And I think everybody in here does that. Everybody in here goes through, but that's when you tell yourself, God died for that. And he died for that too. But it's hurtful too when that person that did something is around too and they don't change. Right? But okay, so let's go home. That was a long session. The longest. That was 2 hours.
But that was good.
That was 2 hours.
Thank you, Pastor.
It's the marathon.
Thank you.
Yeah, I guess so. This is the longest. Come on, let's go home. And next week we'll talk about starting over. Right? That's the next thing. After you acknowledge the pain, you should repurpose, starting over. You got to start over. 16. That's just the scapegoat. That's just the whole scapegoat of Day of Atonement. But then all of us, there's the start over. Right? Right? We all want to just, let's start this thing over. All right? Come on, let's go home. But acknowledge your pain. It can't help. Healing can't start until you acknowledge it. All right, let's pray. Lord, we thank you for tonight, oh God. We thank you.